In the Money is made possible by financial support from Old National Bank and Chicagoans like you. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to In the Money. I'm your host, Kimberly Loftus, a CPA and a financial executive, and financially secure. And it feels great, but I have not always been this way. I'm originally from a small city in southern Indiana. We were rooted in poverty, climbed up to working class where my parents had a good job, but it wasn't enough to create financial stability. Like many of us, I had love and family support, but no one was bankrolling my transition to adulting in Chicago. I got life lessons, but no money lessons. I got the birds and the bees talk, but no budget plan. On this show, we will now have the money talks that we didn't have as kids, which is my way to share the gift of financial freedom with you that will lead to less stress around money, enable you to have more joy and hopefully more money. This journey to financial security will happen right now, right here in my living room. The first step in this journey is overcoming your poverty mindset. For many years, no matter how much money I made, I believed I was one step from being financially insecure. Again, any overspending in one place meant that I had to cut somewhere else. In other words, I could hang on to a dollar. I had friends who also came from financially challenged backgrounds, but they would do the opposite and spend, spend, spend. I didn't understand at the time, but we were all suffering from the poverty mindset. To help us better understand the definition of the poverty mindset, joining me in the living room today is Tamika Hill, a raw but real therapist. Tamika is a licensed social worker who graduated from Governor State University. Welcome to the show, Tamika.
Thank you for having me.
So let's jump right in.
Yes.
What is the definition of the poverty mindset?
For me, the poverty mindset is when you have been through quite a bit of challenges in your lifetime, maybe in your childhood, and your parents had challenges with finances. Okay. And you kind of stay stuck in that mindset, whether it's overspending, underspending. Either way, it is still a poverty mindset either way because you're not balanced out with your money.
Okay. Now, how would I know that I suffer from the poverty mindset?
So there's two categories. It's compulsive saver or compulsive spender. Compulsive saver, of course, is the person who most people call frugal, but they're scared to spend. They're always saving in survivor mode because they never think they have enough money. Your compulsive spender, on the other hand, is like money is water. It flows through their hand. Whatever they see, they're buying, they're capturing every moment because they're living in the high, because they're scared that I'm not going to have it. So, the old mindset, you work hard, you play hard. Mm-hmm. So it's not a proper mindset because if you can't afford it, why are you playing in it?
So can you give us some examples of some triggers where I would know if I fall into one of those two categories?
Emotional spending, okay. Either way. So emotional spending comes from usually depression, breakups, or grief a lot of times. So when you think about it, if you have to go spend money to feel better, that's the first sign that you probably have some triggers going on from poverty mindset.
But then why can't I go buy that cute jacket? It makes me feel good about how I'm going out to, interview or something, or go on a date. Is there something bad about that?
It's not bad, but can you afford it? Because you can go get a $20 jacket. Why do you got to have a $1,500 jacket?
Good point. But I look good in that $1,500 jacket.
You can look just as good with some accessories from the dollar store.
Okay. What about when I save money, I hold on to every single dollar?
And that's when you don't know how to reward yourself, right? The first sign of that is like you have a lot of money in the bank and your house doesn't even reflect anything but the bare minimums of necessities. You shouldn't want to you still want to live. You want to have extra comfort, perhaps. I get that because we want to save for the rainy days, but we also have to learn to live. So one of the triggers I always say that most savers have is the moment they hear the market fluctuating, they're hoarding money again. They're always working. They never have time for people because they're in survival mode.
So how do I know, I hear what you're saying about the definition, but how do I know that I went over the edge and I'm suffering from one of those personality traits?
So for saver, compulsive saver, it would be more than likely you have a lot of money and no fun, no hobbies. You have probably nothing that costs over maybe $100 in your house. You don't buy yourself anything. You still probably have your shoes from 1980. It's nothing wrong with antiques now, but it's overboard. The compulsive spender, you have a lot of tags in your closet from every year that you haven't even worn yet, but you're still buying. You have a lot of boxes. Another big sign is that you hide a lot of stuff because you don't want your significant other or your family.
So what are some of the steps I can take, like baby steps and big steps, to get over those personality traits if I'm an overspender or underspender?
I don't like to say get over. I say like to balance. Okay. So some of the coping strategies that I personally would suggest is one, therapy for both, because you need to understand the root problem of where this came from. The second step is finding a little balance, right? Because the truth is, if you're a compulsive spender, you're not going to stop overnight. It's an addiction almost. However, starting to learn your triggers that cause you this emotional need to go spend. That's the first step. And the other part of that step would be allow yourself a budget. Like, okay, I'm only going to spend this $100 for my compulsive spending. So we're adapting to your personality. We're not restricting it, but we're putting some restrictions or boundaries on it, so to speak.
So say that I'm that person who wants to look good and let everybody know I have some money, so I'm buying all this expensive clothes. What would be your recommendation for that person?
For that person, start going to the consignment shops, the higher end secondhand stores. They have a lot of internet stuff now that you can buy the name brand stuff. You can rent the name brand stuff for cheaper, and probably go trade in some of the stuff you got in your closet, or even go sell that so you can have some extra money to try to fit the image you're trying to portray.
And then flipping that to the other side, if I'm an underspender and I have nothing more than $100, how can I take that first step to, start spending some of that money?
Reward. And actually, they're the most challenging, believe it or not, because they save so much. But one of the things that I first suggest for them is create a budget that gives you an allowance to spend probably like $100, because they're very uncomfortable with spending money. So even $100, believe it or not, is a lot to a compulsive saver. So, but creating a budget that allows you that allowance to reward yourself for something good you did, or just reward yourself, even if it's something small. The other one I would suggest is creating a hobby, but putting it in your budget, because they're big about budgets.
Now, you have mentioned therapy would be a good way to help balance. So are there therapists who specialize in financial issues, or is just a general part of therapy? Is that just one component, maybe a larger issue?
I think it's one component of a larger issue. So I think your therapist who specializes in individual therapy, trauma therapy, CBT therapy, those would probably be the best choice, because again, it's usually started in your childhood somewhere, whether it be how your parents spent money or your insecurities of, like you said, I want to look like the $1 million that I don't have.
Okay. And so with all of this balance, how long does this usually take? Is this depending on the person? Is it something that's a quick fix? Is it a long-term process?
Oh, nothing's a quick fix. It would be like losing weight and don't happen overnight, right? So I would say it depends a lot on the person, because you have to allow yourself grace. You're not going to get this overnight, because if you, let's say, for instance, you're 40, right? And you've been a compulsive spender for 40, or let's say 20 years of that. You're not going to stop overnight. You got to allow yourself some grace and realistic goals that fit how to make mistakes and still get back up.
Well, say I'm not ready for therapy, because a lot of people are just concerned about being in therapy, period, and just not open to that. What can those people do who are just not ready to take that therapy step?
Either way, create a budget.
Okay.
Create a budget, understand your triggers, reevaluate. Even if you're not into therapy, journaling, when you find yourself emotionally triggered and you want to go shop, or you find yourself getting triggered and you're studying your bank account and you want to save, journal that. What's going on around that time? What are the feelings that happen behind that? Because sometimes we don't process in the moment in our head, but if we write it out and read it later, we see something different.
These are wonderful tips, Tamika. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
To share his own personal story around the poverty mindset, I would like to introduce Malcolm Brown, business owner, author, father, and husband. Welcome to the show, Malcolm. Let's jump right in.
How you doing?
So you have a book about your beginning and where you are today.
Yes.
And I like this picture where you were 10 years ago, 10 years ago in 2012, where you have, started off in your business and you have expensive clothes.
Yeah.
And you have your case with your equipment in your business.
Yeah.
And then we fast forward to today where you're in a business suit and a briefcase. Can you tell me the journey from where you were 10 years ago to where you are now and as part of the poverty mindset?
Yeah, so 10 years ago, like you said on the picture, I was literally coming right out of the community, right? The poverty community. And I started my business, and what really caught me was that I had an opportunity to build whatever I dreamed. And so from that moment, I started to dream who I wanted to be tomorrow. And I would see that guy. I would see the guy at the suit town. I would see the guy that was doing high-level business. I would see the guy who was financially free. And literally, that was my mission. It was kind of like my guiding light or my goalpost. Well, subsequently, with tenacity, drive, ambition, intentionality, 10 years later, I actually become that guy. Right? I oftentimes tell people I went from the trap house to the penthouse. And that's what you see literally in that picture. One guy standing in the hood with his equipment, and then another guy standing in a very nice apartment, business suit on with a briefcase, still doing the same thing, but from a different vantage point.
Interesting.
I started my career on the mattress, but in that picture, in my briefcase, I had my global expansion plan. Still doing the same thing, but from a different vantage point. So that's what that picture was about.
So, but what was it that made you change in your mind? Because Tamika, our clinical licensed therapist, was saying something. It's, a lot of it's mental. What was it that triggered that change from where you were 10 years ago, where you are today?
Literally, the bridge in between poverty and freedom was information and exposure. I can remember going downtown Chicago one day. It was like 12 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday. And I happened to stumble upon a open house in the Gold Coast because I'm just out frolicking. I had no business being there, but I was there. And when I got to this open house, there's a penthouse, 3-bedroom, 3-bath, huge, sprawling views of the city. And the people just sitting there drinking champagne, listening to good music. And I'm thinking, like, ain't these people supposed to be at work? That's what my mom was doing at that time, right? But they were there. They was looking at the place. $6 million penthouse.
Wow.
And I'll never forget the listing agent that day looked right at me and said, you can have it too. And my life changed. 2 things happened in that moment. 1, I realized I was poor. And 2, I realized I didn't have to be. It gave me so much power because one thing that is true for me is this. There's no difference in between us. We're all built the same. Some wired differently, but we all have a choice. And if we choose to work hard, because being poor is hard and being rich is hard, you just got to choose your hard. If you choose to work hard and be intentional about it, that same reality could be for me. And I'm pleased to say it is.
I think that's so interesting when you say that each lifestyle, rich and poor, is hard.
Yes.
So what was that hard first step that you took to start your journey from poverty?
The hard first step I took was I had to realize, 1, the Calvary is not coming. Oftentimes when you grow up in poverty, you expect everybody else to do something for you. So it was me taking the personal responsibility for my own success. If I wanted to build a business, it was on me to save my money. No bank was going to give me no money. My cousin, my mama, auntie, it was nobody else's responsibility but my own. And I carried that mindset through my whole career. So that made me an avid saver. It made me a forward thinker. It created a degree of structure and pushed me to have strategy about building my business. And all of these different tenets that I'm talking about led to the success that I have today. So it was taking my own responsibility. The first change, literally, in my mind says, I have to do this. Nobody's going to do it for me. It's available to me, but if I don't do it, I'll miss it.
But did you have help along the way, even though your mindset changed? Sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And so
Yeah.
how did you get those relationships or people to help you,
Yeah.
you know, on your journey?
I oftentimes believe that when the mentee is ready, the mentor will present itself. So around about 22, I was going on this journey, and I ended up meeting a man by the name of Charles Johnson at the gym. But that man literally represented everything that I wanted to become. And I remember sitting down with him, and I was telling him, I said, I have never seen nobody like you. Only place you exist is in my mind. Now you're sitting in front of me. I said, brother, wherever you're going, I'm coming with you. And I literally held on to him, and he taught me, I mean, everything from the way I dress to the way I talk. He's a very well-spoken man about business, about thinking higher in business, higher thinking, higher literacy, reading, and he taught me so much. So mentorship and modelship is very important. But the second half of it is understanding that you can go get information. Me, as a millennial, the world that I live in is literally the world of information. There's information at our fingertips. The thing is, if you don't have a lust or a desire for the information, you'll miss it. So I can get on YouTube and learn anything I want to learn.
So as you know, Tamika had mentioned earlier that a lot of things happen in your family
Yes.
that channels the way that you handle money in the future. How are you making sure that your family, like I mentioned your father, how you make sure that your family doesn't fall prey to the poverty mindset?
Well, one of the things I want to teach my children is really understanding the purpose of money. Money, it's cool for consumption, of course. You know, we're going to have our luxuries, right? I believe that you should live, I'm not one to say you should live below your means. You should live within your means, right? I believe that. If you can't afford it, don't buy it. But if you can, why not? So, of course, teach them to enjoy money, but really teach them the purpose of money. Money is literally, if your vision was the brick, money is the mortar to put everything together. So you literally build a future by having those resources. And you can literally change the world around you and the world at large if you have access to resources. So managing and stewarding those resources with intentionality and responsibility is very important. So I'm really going to talk to them about that, and then talk about investing for the future, because it will show up.
Now, going back to that picture of you 10 years ago and where you
Yeah.
are now, when we had talked earlier, had mentioned where you had bought some clothes and it was very expensive, and that was also a trigger for you. Can you
Yeah.
elaborate on that?
Oh yeah, I said one of the things that made me change my mind about saving money was I said I had about $10,000 worth of clothes on, and I was standing in a room where nobody knew what I had on. And I feel like it was a waste of money, right? It's a waste of investment. Now I still spend money on clothing, but my circle has changed, right?
Right.
This is the uniform for my circle. But it was in that moment where I realized that, to be honest with you, I was trying to impress a bunch of people that didn't like me anyway.
Oh, interesting.
I was trying to prove something that I belong or that I had, and the truth was that I did not. I had somebody tell me something, and I want to kind of pin it on this note that every day when you get up in the morning, you have to look in the mirror, and you have to build a bridge in between who you are and who you think you are. And in that moment, I thought I was somebody that I was not, and I had to make a choice to be able to build a bridge by information, intentionality, working hard, saving my money, and actually trying to really become who I saw. In that moment, I was pretending. Trying to be something that I was not. In this moment, I'm living my reality, living my truth, and trying to be the best that I can be.
And what do you equate financial security with, in your own words? What does that mean to you when you're financially secure?
Financially secure, to me, financially secure to me is not just having enough, but having more than enough to where you can make a great impact on the world around you. That's what financially secure to me is. in a nutshell.
And when you look back to your younger self where you realized that you were in poverty,
Yes,
what would you say to that person?
it actually happens, bro. Keep working.
Oh, good, good. Now, I know when I read your book, there was a moment in your childhood where your mom was a great inspiration. Mm-hmm. Can you share that?
So my mom, in the book, I talked about, well, we were really, really struggling. We were living in the house, literally no lights, no gas. All the utilities were cut off. And of course, we couldn't move. She had 5 children at that time. And one morning she was out, I had 2 barbecue grills in the backyard. On one, she was cooking breakfast. On the other, she was boiling water so we could take our morning baths to go off to school. And through all of the vicissitudes that moment had presented, she never broke. Well, in my eyes, she didn't, right? I'm sure maybe in her private time, she maybe broke that. I don't know, because I never saw it. But what she did was she kept going. She was listening to her music, and I'll never forget the song she was listening to. It was a line that says, "He may not come when you want him, but he'll be there right on time." It was the faith that she had in that moment that kept her going. Now, fast forward to where I had a challenging moment in my life. My first business had shut down overnight. I was sitting in a very beautiful apartment in Hyde Park, couldn't pay the bills, didn't know how I was going to get the business back open. And I was wondering, is this it for me? And I heard it playing in my head. He may not come when you want him, but he'll be there right on time. And I was able to draw faith and energy and power and hope from that moment. So my mom has literally been an example to me on what it looks like to persevere, to have resilience, to keep going, and to truly have faith.
And I know that you have taken that faith and that inspiration
Yes.
from your mom and giving back to the community. Can you share some of the things that you're doing to create some more stability for people financially?
Yeah, so through a couple of the modalities in which I operate, one is through my company, TTL Holdings Group. We have a non-for-profit leg called TTL Cares, where our desire and our mission is to whatever community that we serve to be a light in that community, whether it be through food pantry, whether it be Adopt a Block where we clean up the neighborhood, whether it be through creating scholarships for high school students to go to college. We just want to be present because I truly believe that in order to be great in this world, you must be a servant.
Okay.
You have to serve. I can't come into your community, take your money, and then leave. I have to serve. I have to give back. And just like that is a foundational proverb for me, I put that into my business and everything else that I do.
So what tips would you give for some youth today? Because you started off pretty young, like
Yeah.
16, 17 years old.
Yeah.
You eventually went back and got your GED, but you dropped out of high school. But look at you now. So what would you give some tips from people who are struggling with school? Maybe school is not their thing.
Yeah.
And you're a success story for that. What tips would you give?
I always say just find your way of educating yourself. But education is the single most thing to bring about financial freedom in this world. The more you know, the more you grow. Become an expert at whatever it is that you do, because people are not looking for problems, they're looking for solutions. And when you're an expert, you have become the solution. And you get to charge them however much you want to charge them for that answer. So educate yourself, whether it be reading books, whether it be through educating yourself through podcasts, YouTube, even myself. I didn't go to college, but they have graduate programs, certificate programs that you can sign up for online. I do that myself. Always educate yourself.
Okay, that's perfect.
That is one. Yeah.
And
go ahead.
your story is really an inspiration. I just really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Kimberly.
Malcolm.
Financial psychology, what we define this is the study of mind and behavior as it relates to spending, saving, and investing decisions. A lot of people don't realize how much psychology relates to what we do with money. So I want to take a few moments and first of all define the needs versus wants section. So a need is simply something that we need to have. This is something that we have to have in life to make things happen. Some examples could be, water, food, shelter, and so forth. Now, when we talk about a want, this is something that we would like to have. These aren't necessities in life, but these are generally things that we like to spend money on or have in our lives. Some examples of this could be a brand new cell phone, a brand new computer, video game system, and so forth. But what we need to realize is that needs, we need to focus on those that help us accomplish our financial goals down in life. So for example, if I were to ask you, is a computer a want or a need? Now, most people might give me a variety of answers, but what we want to think about is, will that computer help bring me a monetary result down the road? For example, if I'm buying a computer to play games and surf the web, it's truly a want. Let's say I'm in college and I'm going to college to get a degree to make more money. That computer will help me in an end result be able to bring more money in, so we could justify that as a need. So a lot of people don't realize how much money affects more than just what's in our bank accounts. Finances affect a variety of things, such as emotions. Imagine in life, if you're out spending money or taking on a major purchase in life, and we don't have the credit that we need or the money that we need for the purchase, that can bring a negative toll on our emotions in life. So we want to really be careful to take control of our finances and get things in a good working order so that we're going to have positive emotions as those major purchases come up. It also gives us a sense of well-being. So we want to think about these things and how emotions can be both negative and positive. So now we think about where and how do we learn these personal financial habits. Some of our mentors could be parents, could be teachers, friends, salespeople, professionals, close associates. We call these more knowledgeable others. But we want to think about is, are these individuals really giving us the influence that we need in life when it comes to our money decisions? So we want to be careful that we're not keeping up with other individuals from a status point, but are we really maintaining in our budget to be able to make ends meet for our family's decisions and future goals?
We've unpacked a lot today. Before you can conquer your money fears, you need to understand your money triggers and get your mind right. The key to breaking the poverty mindset is to understand the why behind your money habits. We know it can be done. We've heard some testimony today. As we just learned, you can suffer from overspending or underspending, which is known as the compulsive spender and the compulsive saver. Money is supposed to be a tool, not a burden. So let's get comfortable with being uncomfortable, learning about money. My challenge to each of you is to take that first step and find out if you suffer from the poverty mindset. Go to the CAN-TV website where you can download the Money Personality Trait Chart and discover your own money personality. Remember, you are not alone in your money journey.